I think the biggest thing right now is kids don't know how to write cursive, but they know what gender they are. And I think that's a big
Are
problem.
you fudging kidding me right now that cursive is what you think is more? I am gonna, Emma, oh God, girl.
Point blank, I think it should just be banned all across the board for anyone under 18. And that there should be
like, where do these people think that trans adults come from? Do they not think that trans adults are trans kids? Do trans adults just like fly from the sky in a basket with a stork or something? Like, if these adults exist, then the kids exist. So why shouldn't the kids be supported? I think the subtext here is they're like, trans people don't exist, period. I think that's what they are trying to say, but they don't want to outright say it because then they wouldn't be allowed to be on YouTube.
There's one common ground. Socially weird as I was, sometimes problems at home. Sometimes they just don't know how to.
No, that's really gross. You can't say that all trans kids are socially weird and have problems at home because that's just not the case. It's a sweeping generalization.
Where the lack of their self-expression is coming from, so they can...
No, being trans is not indicative of a lack of self-expression. It's just not. What?
Hiding who they really are and feeding into
no.
their own ego.
No. Ew, ew, ew.
Would I like to see it be banned until 30? Yeah, absolutely.
Till 30? How far are we going to push these people? How far are we going to push these trans? Like, okay, you can't start your authentic life until age 30. Again, it shows a big lack of maturity. I have a problem and there's something I don't like. And of course, the thing I don't like is because of this problem that I have. It's just, they're not connected. They're not connected at all. And it just shows that these people do not have experience in education. They do not have experience in schools or with children. It's just not the reality of the situation. It's hateful, it's shameful, it's disgusting, and I hate it. Hello ladies and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, hi, my name is David, and if you have been here before, thanks for coming back. My name is still in fact David. Welcome to my series called Dismantling Hate, the series where we look through some online hate and besties. There's no short of it on the internet. So we are looking at homophobic things, transphobic things, xenophobic things, racist things, religious things, all the things that incite hate out in our world. So welcome to episode 11. This is actually a part 2 of a Zoom call that we watched in episode 10, and it is published by the Gays Against Groomers YouTube channel. We've talked about them a lot on this series, and it is called The Dark Side of the Rainbow, episode 3, The Untold Stories of Detransition. So we're looking at these 4 individuals, Emma, Kevin, Javier, and Nicholas. So we're listening to their 4 stories of detransitioning, and Robert Wallace here is doing a really bad job at facilitating the conversation. So before we get into this, I have 2 very distinct disclaimers, and they are very important. Number 1, I do not have Michelle Obama's arms, but I do have her attitude, which means I do not want you to go and leave hate on these people's pages. I don't think they deserve it, because when they go low, we go high. I'm here to provide you some comedic responses to this and to give you practice to confront these homophobic, transphobic ideologies when they're out in the world, because it can be hard to stay composed. And on that note, I'm going to try really, really hard not to swear. I did not succeed in the last one, but I'm getting better. We're getting there, because it's hard to stay composed in the face of hate. Okay, my second disclaimer here is that all 4 stories that we are listening today from Nicholas, Javier, Kevin, and Emma, these stories are valid. These stories are valid. These experiences are valid. But what is not valid is the way that they are weaponizing their stories of detransition in order to villainize other trans individuals. Nobody should be forced to transition. Nobody should be forced to detransition. The damaging part is when you start to take away people's options of what they can do with their bodies. I do not think any of these 4 individuals are lying. I don't think they are trying to be deceitful. I don't think they are trying to be hurtful. I truly think that they are doing what they think is best, but unfortunately, it is inherently perpetuating transphobia and hurtful ideologies that will hurt other people. Just because they felt as if they needed to transition does not mean that the rest of the trans community needs to as well. So now that we've got through my disclaimers, bestie, let's get into the second hour here. We're going to get into it. Let's see what the second half has in store for us. All right.
So for everybody here who's watching this, that means you are on the video version or you're listening through the podcast format. So we are in the second hour with Nicholas Blooms, Javier Perez, Kevin Jones, and Emma Dowd. And I am Robert Wallace, host of Dark Side of the Rainbow with Gays Against Groomers. And these are all also Gays Against Groomers members, detransitioners who are here telling their stories, answering some questions, and maybe we'll at some point stir this up and have a full-fledged conversation. But so far we've just been doing a question answer format. So let's get to the first question of the second hour here. So for Nicholas, if you were talking to a trans youth what would you suggest to them about how they should move forward?
I guess that's not a question I've ever thought about. Because, man, kids are different than someone that's 18 plus. If a kid's been through, gender ideology and been pushed this narrative that because they're playing with dolls or they like the color pink that they're trans, I feel like it will be difficult to navigate, especially if the parents been pushing this trans narrative.
I'm trying really hard not to pause so often, but I can agree with part of this, right? Like if you were born into a male body and you are feminine and like playing with dolls, that doesn't mean you're trans. So if somebody's trying to convince you that you are trans just because you are feminine, I can agree that that can be harmful, and that isn't what is typically happening out in the world. So it just, again, it's a big sign of immaturity here of like, what has happened to you is not what is happening to the rest of the world, even though you may think that to be true.
I feel like the best thing I could share with them is get curious, start understanding, like just start getting curious to why you're transitioning. Because I don't want to press on the belief that there's something wrong with them. Like if your parent thinks trans is the best for you, I'm sorry, that's your parent. It sucks. Like they shouldn't be doing that. But
yes, I would agree. If your parent needs to go along, like parents need to be supporting kids, just period. You shouldn't be feeding them what you think is right. Parents should be supporting their kids. And who are these people arguing against? Like, it'd
be hard to tell a kid, like, stop transitioning, like, this isn't right for you, because it'll freak them out. And it'll also create more tension between me and the trans kid. So it'd be hard to have a conversation like that. I think the only thing is guiding them in a direction where they can better understand themselves, better understand why they're choosing to transition, and almost even giving them an alternative message, sharing my experience, telling my story, being like, I went through something you're experiencing.
No, sorry. No, what you are going through is inherently not what all other trans people or necessarily trans kids are going through. They're very tiptoeing around this idea of like, there is one omnipotent answer and God, you can't play God with your own body, and that nobody is trans. They haven't outright said it because that is inherently transphobic, but it's just the subtext that I'm picking up on in every way. Just because you were not trans does not mean that transness does not exist. It's hateful, it's shameful, it's disgusting, and I hate it.
I thought I was trans, but I wasn't. I had this, and
that is your experience. Cool, good for you, it's valid. Now shut up.
Experience that made me think I was trans, but I'm not now, and I'm better and healthier and happier for not transitioning anymore.
Good. I'm happy for you.
That's a great answer. Because it's so true. You can't create other people's realities. And the more you tell them they shouldn't do something, the more they want to do it. But what you can do is you can characterize your own experiences in a way that helps them understand, hey, maybe there's another way to look at.
These people are so close to self-awareness. They really are.
Things that I have in common with this person.
Yeah, and I feel like I want to invite parents that are transing their kids to.
The language is just really disgusting. Nobody's transing their kids. Like, who are you talking to? I don't get it. It's so weird.
Listen to a detransitioner. Listen to our stories, because we have something that's not being talked about in the mainstream. I feel like this is such a common thing where there's no alternative narrative that's saying like you can heal gender dysphoria. You don't have to transition. You don't have to go through the medical transition. Like there's no narrative saying otherwise. It's like,
I don't know if you can heal gender dysphoria. I'd be interested to know how that is. And I actually know that's a conversation that's coming up on Gays Against Groomers. So make sure you catch that in Dismantling Hate, whatever episode that's going to be, because I know that's coming for us. So awesome.
You either do this or you go off your kids and off yourself. Like, it's just not fair. So I would say like,
nobody's pushing that narrative. That's just the reality of where gender dysphoria often pushes people to. Nobody's creating that. That's statistics. That's the history of the world. What?
You transition into your community to speak.
Awesome. Very good advice.
No, it's not. It's awful advice.
If you were talking to a trans youth, maybe one who felt lost or thought they knew exactly what they wanted for themselves, based on your experience, how might you address them?
I've thought about that question so many times and thought of an answer. I've thought of God knows how many answers.
Well, start with one.
To me, personally, I can say that there's just no one particular way to go about it.
Just like anything else in your life, there's no one particular way to go about it, and yet they're purporting one way to go about it?
If I would try to talk to this child, I would want them to tell me, like, what makes them think they're trans, where they heard the term, like, who talks to them about it, like, stuff like that. Like like Nicholas said, there are just so many parents that are just pushing this ideology on the kids because
they're really not. They're really not. I have worked with so many kids. I've worked with so many families. I've met so many parents, and not a single one of them has been like that. Of course, that's a random sample for me, but I've worked with hundreds of families. I would have just statistically have come across one who was like that at this point. It's just not the reality for the masses, even though that might have been for you. But even say like all these people are transing our kids. And if you've seen episode 1 of this, if you've seen episode 10, where we looked at the first part of this call, these people weren't influenced by their parents. Everyone except Emma said that they were influenced by social media and friends. So is it all the parents or is it the friends in Tumblr? Like, make it make sense.
Point in their parents' lives, they were denied support. They were denied love, comfort, everything that a child should have growing up with parents. But to push an ideology, one that causes irreversible harm to some, quite frankly, I consider it child abuse. I would try to talk to this child. I would want them to tell me like what makes them think they're trans, where have they heard the term, like who talks to them about it, like stuff like that. Like Nicholas said, there are just so many parents that are just pushing this ideology on the kids because at one point in their parents' lives, they were denied support. They were denied love, comfort, everything that a child should have growing up with parents.
So what this person is purporting here is that because the parents of trans kids were emotionally neglected, they are pushing this idea of transitioning onto their kids. Respectfully, that makes no sense. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say here is that like the way that they're talking about transitioning is that it's like drug use and it's like this looming choice that everybody's trying to pressure you into, and that's just not the case.
Push an ideology, one that causes irreversible harm to some. Quite frankly, I consider it child abuse. I personally consider it that.
If somebody is forcing their children to transition against their will, I would agree. But I don't think that happens very much, if at all, honestly.
But I would want to sit down with the child and have them tell me like why they think the way they do, and that I would try to push them to go towards talking to a therapist who wouldn't be biased about it, who say, "Oh no, you're trans. Here's a referral. Go get pumped full of hormones." And everything. I want them to talk to a therapist who will go through everything step by step and give them actual facts and data of what will happen if they take hormones and what's reversible and what isn't and what could possibly happen to their bodies. And like,
that's fair. I would agree.
Said, I think it is important that these people who do push this ideology have that these trans people shouldn't be heard, because so many people are saying that we don't exist, that we're point blank, we just don't exist. And I think it's just cruel on many levels to say that.
Nobody says that detransitioners don't exist. Hi, I see them. They're real people. There's 4 individuals right now in front of us. They exist. Cool. Like, hi, what? It doesn't make sense.
That's what today's all about. Listen to the detransitioners. You all have your unique perspective and philosophy on these matters, and that's what needs to come out right here on the dark side of the rainbow. Emma, what kind of advice would you offer a young trans-identifying person to help them through their struggle?
I actually had this happen. My best friend called me up one night and said, "Hey, my daughter just came home. She told me she's trans, she's a boy." And she was pretty much influenced by her guidance counselor. Because she used to use her guidance counselor as somebody that would help her through her days. And she said, "Would you mind talking to her?" And so when I talked to her, of course, I know her. And she likes to skateboard. She likes to do all the fun stuff like the guys do and stuff like that, because she really is a tomboy. And I asked her, I said, "So do you like men or do you like women?" She goes, "I like men." I said, "Could you see yourself dressed as a man the rest of your life and looking like one?" She goes, "No, I really can't." And I said, I kind of asked about their background. And the biggest thing popped up. And that was, she didn't feel worthy in front of her father because he had a stepson that he gave more attention to. I'm like, okay, now I know where it's coming from. She wants to please her father, and she thinks that she's a boy, she will get that love of her father. And so when I talked to her mom about that.
Hey, that's valid. That's valid. That can happen. I'm sure that has happened. 100%. But I don't know if that's happening at the frequency that these people think it is.
Sat down, and she ended up not going through it, even though when the guidance counselor sent her home with the ticket to go to an endocrinologist and get the testosterone.
Yeah, it's a ticket, like you're getting on a ride at the fair. Like, think about the motivation of it. Why would the guidance counselor want to push somebody into that? What would the guidance counselor be getting out of that?
Much had her convinced that this is what she's doing. She ripped it up, and today she is a thriving high school student. She is going to be a senior in high school. She's got a boyfriend that she loves to death. She's got a job and she's happy. And I think that in the background of it, there's something there. And when I see a lot of other people that are kids talking about this, there's one common ground. Socially weird as I was, sometimes problems at home. Sometimes they just don't know how to.
No, that's really gross. You can't say that all trans kids are socially weird and have problems at home, because that's just not the case. It's a sweeping generalization.
Themselves to life, and they like men stuff, so they think that they're a boy. And I see a lot of other people trying to push an ideology. And so therefore,
do these people know what the word ideology means? I'm really struggling with that. Ideology is not politically leaning in either direction. Ideology just means the way that you look at the world. It's your idea. It's your perspective. These people also have an ideology. They're only using it for the other side of the equation of thought. It's really frustrating to me that they are using this in this way.
like, okay, you're probably this, so let's get you here. I think there's underlying things, and that's what I think we need to look at, as opposed to just the physical. And when we do that, I think we can really help a lot of kids.
Absolutely. It's funny.
Absolutely.
In not really a funny manner, but it's interesting. That is the most commonly overlooked thing in all of these transition stories that I've just
How do you know that?
heard is
that,
that
the ones he just heard.
they're not getting enough, the person isn't getting enough psychological care. They're not being listened to either long enough by the doctor. They're not being guided through different...
Which is true in almost all interactions with doctors in modern U.S. healthcare, I would believe. Probably not even just the U.S. and Canada, too. It's similar to that in every case, not just with trans care.
Development before they are allowed and encouraged to go down these irreparable routes so often. So, Kevin Jones, what kind of advice would you offer?
Oh, God, I'm ready.
Trans youth?
I don't know. If you haven't watched the first episode of this, Kevin Jones says the most outrageous things that sound like they were written by Lemony Snicket.
First and foremost, you don't want to...
This is a whisper party?
The most important thing is to not sever any connection between the child and the parent. So anytime that sort of conversation comes up, for me, it's really important to make sure the parent or guardian is present. And
okay, that's good.
It's not so much me saying what you need to do, or if you do X, Y, or Z, this is that, or if you think this, you must think that. It's really just listening and really trying to understand on where they're coming from and where they're at, so I can best analyze and understand where the lack of their self-expression is coming from, so they can...
No, being trans is not indicative of a lack of self-expression. It's just not. What? I don't get it. They're like, these people are pushing ideologies on the kids, and then they're pushing their ideologies on the kids. Like, the idea should be that people should just be free to do whatever they want, and there should be care in place in order to support these kids and make sure that it isn't coming from places like, you want to please your father. But not every trans kid has problems at home like this. It's just, how are these sweeping generalizations just show that these people are very biased and they don't see their own garbage, to be honest.
Have a better way of channeling that lack of expression in a more productive way, instead of hiding who they really are and feeding into their own ego.
No. Ew.
That's deep. I appreciate that.
It was deep. It was stupid.
Before I move on to the next question,
Ugh.
does anybody have anything on their mind they would like to spontaneously...
I have a lot of things on my
look
mind.
into this conversation they've been sitting on? Okay. We'll come back to this at the end. So if you have any spontaneous light bulbs that have to be shared, we get those shared. So Nicholas, when considering new laws, what should lawmakers consider when it comes to queer and trans issues involving children?
Respectfully, I don't know if these people are qualified to talk about laws when it comes to trans people. I think that should be up to the people who are educated on these issues and the people that have a background in science. Like, they're going to comment on it here, I'm going to comment on it here, but really, are any of us qualified to do that? Do we have any evidence other than anecdotal? Not really. You know what I mean? Like, who...
Man, I just want to be blunt and say, like, kids shouldn't be trans. I feel like the law should prevent children from transitioning, period. Like, not medically transitioning at all until they're of legal age. I'm sure there's some wiggle room, like if they have like some sort of health issue they need to go on and they have to take medication that affects their hormones. And I feel like that's fine. But like anything to do with transition related because of gender dysphoria, or thinking because they like gender nonconforming things, that they have to trans themselves, is just absolutely bonkers and should not be allowed. Just in Illinois recently, I was speaking against with Awake Illinois, where they were trying to pass this bill in Illinois to make parents that didn't want to transition their kids illegal. And if they passed that bill, they would have fine the parents to even go to jail or pay a huge fine if they didn't want to transition their kids. So these bills.
And again, it's manipulating by omission, right? It's not saying like, if you don't want your kid to be trans, you're going to be in jail, which is what he's trying to purport here. No, what this is saying is that if you have a child who wants to transition, who has the support of the medical professionals, of the psychologists, of these people, and you are not allowing them to do what they want, it's not like a 7-year-old can just say, I want to be trans, and the parent goes, no, and then that parent goes to jail. That's not the reality of the situation.
Already trying to be passed, and it's insanely horrible that there are representatives trying to push this. It's just such a crazy world, and I would not want anyone to be doing that, because all of us here have had underlying mental health issues that weren't addressed. And if
so, then doesn't he just kind of like he's really picking up a hammer and nailing this coffin shut here of like, you all had mental health issues, so wouldn't it make sense that you thought transitioning would solve your issue? Like, people with mental health issues also do other things that aren't meant for them. Like, what?
kids don't know.
There are trans people without mental health issues, lots of them.
And if they were to do something to their bodies that are permanent, that is something they can never take back. If a little girl got a double mastectomy, they can't ever get their breast back. So if a 18
you can. It would cost a lot of money, but you could, absolutely.
like me that tried to transition at 18 can't make a decision, or thought that transition was the best answer even though it wasn't, isn't clear about that, why should a kid be?
Very good point. There's a lot of adults who transitioned, and they are not feeling good about the path they took. And they were of adult age. So how much easier is that for a child? I think I would have identified as trans myself in my earlier years.
I hate that.
The way things are, because it would have been such a simple, easy kind of explanation for so many things. So I feel bad for these people who just don't seem to get like a fair shake with the actions. Javier, what laws do you think lawmakers need to consider when it comes to gay and trans issues?
Point blank, I think it should just be banned all across the board for anyone under 18, and that there should be
like, where do these people think that trans adults come from? Do they not think that trans adults are trans kids? Do trans adults just like fly from the sky in a basket with a stork or something? Like, if these adults exist, then the kids exist. So why shouldn't the kids be supported? I think the subtext here is they're like, trans people don't exist, period. I think that's what they are trying to say, but they don't want to outright say it because then they wouldn't be allowed to be on YouTube.
That 18 up, that there should be at least a year, at most 3 years worth of therapy to make sure that this person wants to pump themselves full of hormones, that they want to go with certain surgeries. Because I actually tried to get bottom surgery and breast augmentation after a month because
My breast augmentation?
nurse who was prescribing my hormones said that I was at a right mental state and at the right hormonal levels to do it. And she got me in touch with a doctor who said that he doesn't need any type of therapy paperwork showing that this is going to benefit me mentally, that he wants to schedule a consultation. Well, that was a consultation, but like an in-person consultation and, talk about it more. I genuinely think that we need to make it a requirement to have anywhere from a year to 3 years worth of therapy for anyone 18 or older to make sure that they're making a sound, informed decision on what they permanently want to do with their body. That way they won't have to go what we've went through. Some of us have gone through stuff where our bodies have just turned against us so bad that we have to live in a somewhat constant state of fear. But then there are others who don't have to do that, where they've walked away from taking the hormones and not having any type of medical complications at all. I think that's what should be done. Ban it under 18 and require anywhere from a year to 3 years worth of therapy to make sure that they know what they're doing, that they have a sound decision, that a professional is giving them the facts and the statistics of what will happen if they take that route.
Like, these people are referencing statistics, but have they actually looked at them themselves? And I can get on board with that. There needs to be therapy, absolutely. But I don't think gender affirming care should be banned under 18. I don't think that's reasonable at all. I think there needs to be structures in place so that people that are accessing that care go through a series of steps to make sure that it is appropriate for them. And if that structure was more robust, perhaps these 4 individuals wouldn't have had the adverse experiences that they had. But no, I don't think it should be banned under 18. I think that's quite ridiculous.
I like that advice. It's like, we let people know what's on a box of Cheerios, what it's made out of. Everything is laid out. Full discretion, there might be some like genetically modified. ingredients in there or something. You might not want that.
What is he even talking about? Box of Cheerios?
The biggest decision of your life, and they're withholding important data points. It's terrible.
Nobody's withholding data.
Okay.
So stupid.
So honestly, everybody has been pretty much spot on with that. As far as legislation goes, I believe anybody under 18 should be required to not do anything until they are 18. And a good example of that is Angelina Jolie's daughter that just went out there, was getting ready to do this stuff, and at the age of like 15 changed her mind. So perfect example of that. I am in a different...
One example doesn't mean that the whole law should be... What?
Because I wasn't here because of gender dysphoria. So I don't quite understand what that means and how that impacts your life. But what I can tell you is, why don't we do something very similar to like when you get married? When you get married, you have to go through some type of counseling for most churches. And when you go through that counseling...
Ew, churches? No. Gross.
You
I do think... Okay, what's my... I think marriage should be banned. Like, that's how this sounds here.
Pro and con type of situations. They must sit there and have some X amount of people that they talk about that is a detransitioner and people that are transitioners. They should have at least 2 to 3 years, as Javier was saying, of mental therapy.
He said 1 to 3. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to provide both perspectives before somebody does make that decision. I think that's informed decision making, that you should be able to look at somebody who has transitioned and talk with them, and look at somebody that has detransitioned and talk with them. I don't think that's a bad idea, but neither of them should be pushing their ideas of what is right. They should just be sharing their stories. And these people are absolutely pushing what they believe is right instead of just sharing information.
Not by somebody that is just telling what they want. They need to be legitimate, verified, licensed practitioners, psychiatrists and stuff that are not going to just give you what you want and just try to make it fast.
What's the give you what you want? Like, what's their motivation to get you to transition? They don't, like, is this the gay agenda? Is it the trans agenda? Is just that straight up what they think this is?
And also, I don't have a problem with having you go through at least 1 or 2 years of living as the opposite sex without anything else. I mean, it's tough. And if you can go through that and take the criticism and take the people misgendering you and stuff like that, and it's still going to be okay, you might be okay with that. Because I noticed a lot.
No, I like living as... Ew, that was gross what she just said. She's like implying that you need to go through like more mental hardship in order to earn your transition. Ooh, gross.
So people start to get misgendered too much, and therefore they're like, oh, I made a mistake. And, might as well make that mistake before you physically...
What? So people that can pass are more valid in their transness? Gross.
Yes, you can get some of it back, but some of it you can't. And so that, I think, is very important that they need to know as well, and not be fed lies that we're hearing through the media.
Like what?
Right. Absolutely. Better information for people on this path. So many people are saying they're getting very little to no information, or just sometimes lies, or they're just telling them what they want to hear. No pushback. It's insane. Kevin.
Okay, Kevin. Give it to us straight.
Yeah. I think, when the brain is done developing, maybe that'd be a good time to consider allowing people to remove body parts.
So now he's saying age 25, because that's when your prefrontal cortex grows together at age 25 approximately. And okay, so then that kicked Nicholas out of this call then, because he doesn't know what's up, because I can almost guarantee Nicholas is under 25.
A little slightly different on this. There's other countries where it's normalized to have different genders dressing up as the opposite gender, right? And there's no medical intervention for those folks. India and Taiwan. Very little to no medicalization going on there.
Like, yes, but there's also the societal structures in place of which those people don't face an incredible amount of discrimination, which is not true in Western culture.
As common. It's not as normalized or whatever. Does it happen there? Yes, but not to the level of what we have going on here. Would I like to see it be banned till 30? Yeah, absolutely.
Till 30? How far are we going to push these people? How far are we going to push these trans? Like, okay, you can't start your authentic life until age 30? Oh my God.
If you go to any guy that's in the military at age 18, and you go to them at 19, and you go down the row of them, and how many of them regret going there? I'm not saying, going to the military is bad, but when we're 18 and making those types of decisions, would they have made it later? Is what I'm saying.
What the hell? What?
So yeah, I think hormones and surgery should wait till then.
I'm sorry. What is Kevin on? Well, he did say that he did crack for a long time. Going to the military is like being trans, and they just, I'm not, no.
If at all possible, we should be limiting it to 1% of who are even getting access to it, or ideally not at all. I'd like to see it all gone. it's really it's all of it's just completely dehumanizing. It's
Being trans is dehumanizing. Wow, Kevin is out here single-handedly providing me with all the thumbnails for these. Good God. Oh, they're finally saying the quiet part out loud here, though, which is nice.
And if you ask the question, what does humanizing mean? It does not mean to cut anything off or to inject anything. And
no, sir. Forcing people to live in an inauthentic relationship with themselves is dehumanizing. Forcing people to live with gender dysphoria for their entire lives is dehumanizing. That's what creates mental health problems. That's what creates so many issues in society. I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted with Kevin right now.
So
awesome. Yeah, I've thought about that too. You know, it's like they say your brain isn't fully developed till you're 25 years old. And yet, you know, for so many things, you're like, oh, 18's good. 21, you can drink, you know, or whatever. And it's like, this isn't like one of those things. You know, it's not a matter of like whether you're like smoking cigarettes or even drinking. This is such another level of depth that has to go into the thought.
I would argue that smoking cigarettes has more irreversible damage to you than being trans is. I don't know. It's a weird comparison. But I'm a trans femme person. I mean, my experience isn't like everybody else, which is fair. But I also smoked cigarettes for a decade, and yeah.
So the next question,
whatever.
And we're going to start back with Nicholas, is what kind of challenges, if any, have you had legally or administratively in trying to return to your original identity? Of course, this is going to be for anybody here who had to go through the changing of the name or anything else. If you didn't, you know, don't worry about anything.
So, I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, but I wouldn't recommend changing your name. It's not a fun process. It takes a few months. The first time I did it, and I spent $1,000 changing my name. It's not the cheapest thing to do. I feel like that was only also hormone medication, just a lot of money. You know, like months and months of paying for that was insane. But that's kind of all I have. Is just, if you're really gonna change your name, like Javier said, like you gotta go through years and years of therapy to just make sure like that's the name you're gonna do. Otherwise, it's gonna be like,
is it years and years of therapy to transition, or is it years and years of therapy? You know, the way they're framing it as if being trans is a mental illness, which is disgusting and harmful and deplorable. I don't know what other synonyms I could come up with. It's so gross, and I hate it. It's clearly the most professional way to say that. To change your name, even, that's the most reversible decision of them all. If you want to be Princess Banana Hammock like Phoebe and Friends, and you want to spend $1,000 to go do it. Who cares? That's the easiest thing to change.
have to change it twice.
Yeah. Wow. Yep. Okay. Well, I'm glad that wasn't too problematic for you in particular. That's good. Javier?
I personally didn't legally change my name, but I was in the process of it. And just getting that process started, it was, time consuming and a bit stressful. I'm thankful.
So you heard it here first, folks. If something is a bit stressful, don't do it. Well, then I guess that's the end of this video then.
Didn't. And I kind of got lazy in the middle of the process. To not legally change my name, so I'm kind of glad I don't have to deal with all that.
It just really informs that these people were not actually trans and weren't meant to be so. Because if you were actually trans, you wouldn't get lazy in the middle of something as simple as a name change. God.
Especially because I just hate that type of bureaucracy. It's just, it's a bit irritating. Doing the paperwork, kind of running, like going to the DMV and standing in line. If
standing in line takes away the motivation of you doing something, you probably were meant to do that in the beginning. It really sets up how maybe immature these two on the bottom are. I haven't seen this in Javier. I mean, I guess they're just so young and immature and they don't know, which is fine. But what?
DMV employee and myself at the same time. But like I said, it should be a requirement to have at least a year or 3 years worth of therapy to make sure that someone would want to change their name and do these irreversible surgeries on their body.
No, I've already said it. I'm not saying it again.
Thank you. Emma, have you had any problems in that area?
Oh, Emma's going to have problems, I know.
Not really. Changing my name wasn't that hard. It was expensive, and I can kind of tell you, it's the state of Florida now. They won't allow you to change your gender on your driver's license. Doesn't matter if you're an adult or child. So that might be problematic for anybody that goes ahead and changes their name from male to female to male. You're not allowed to change the gender assignment. But I know for me, I can kind of tell you a little thing that happened. I actually got my mom to tell me what she would have named me if I was a female, because she I figured she had a name for each, and she did. So I was able to use that name. So I was still using my given female name that my mom was going to give me anyway. But it cost me $483 to go through the courts. And then when you think everything's done, you finally get that done. Now you got to realize to get your driver's license, you must update your social security number. So then your social security number, you have to make some type of reservation. It could take several months. I did mine through COVID, believe it or not. Nobody was ever there. So then when I got that, I was able to go get my driver's license. My driver's license was going to be about $48. And then because of the fact that my name had changed, I need to get my birth certificate from Connecticut changed at this point in time to have a female name to a female. Luckily, they were able to do that. I had to pay $100 to the state of Connecticut, and I got a birth certificate back with the changed gender, which actually was my original assigned gender, was what it should have been. So it really wasn't that big of a deal. So $483. The Social Security is free, but it's a pain in the butt. The driver's license was $48. The birth certificate was $100. And it took a total of about 6 months to be able to get that done. Something I definitely don't want to do again. And so I'm just glad that I am where I am now. And I know that other people are going to have struggles. But in the state of Florida, at this point in time, you will not be able to change your gender. Especially if you're born here in the state of Florida, they will not change your birth certificate either.
The birth certificate I could understand, but not being able to change the gender marker on your license. Maybe if you haven't transitioned. So I feel like we're missing a piece of information there because that seems wrong.
Right. Well, thank you for all that insight into the process.
I don't know
Kevin,
if it was all that insight.
What about you? Anything?
It was pretty easy. Relatively inexpensive because I never did my birth certificate. Yeah, the only thing that took long was insurance. That was really the only inconvenient thing because when I started doing my hormone appointments, when I started T, I had to keep it as Evelyn, so it was like, it was inconvenient, but whatever.
He got to change his own name and he chose Evelyn. Anyway, not important.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't too bad.
Okay, awesome. All right, so this next question is, what strikes you as most ironic regarding how the school board members of various schools are often voting in favor of essentially sexualizing kids or propagandizing them?
All right, here's where I'm particularly positioned to comment on this because I am, in fact, a certified teacher and I am, in fact, studying for my Master's of Education with a specialization in neuroscience and have an incredible amount of experience in schools. So I can't wait to hear what these people say about how this works in school settings.
Like, a lot of times it seems like they are straight, heterosexual individuals, and yet they seem to be fighting harder than anybody to get what is often considered pornography in schools before kids.
No, already. Hard no. No.
So what do you think about that, Nicholas?
Well, I feel like these people that are fighting for it have bought into an ideology because they're trying to be compassionate, they're trying to be empathetic, and they're not. I feel like it's also out of fear. I feel like people are afraid to even confront a different way of thinking. Like, I know somebody that lives on an island and she's trying to bring detransitioner voices to share because her island, everybody on her island is so in this ideology of like, if you have a trans kid, you have to go through this specific pipeline, medical pipeline. And anybody that's against it is a bigot. Anybody that goes against it is a bigot. And I just think that it's so unfair to trans people, like people that are actually identified as trans because of gender dysphoria, so that they have to go through the medical thing. I think it's just really insane because they're trying to speak for them, even though these people that are trans, they just want to live their day-to-day life. And instead, there are these crazy woke liberal moms that want to transition their kids because they want to be the most popular mom of them all. It's like trans by, what is it called? Like trans by Hausen or something like that, where they're like,
it's Munchausen's by proxy, you uneducated Nicholas.
Their kids is trans, so they're going to transition their kid. It's just really this bizarre thing that is really unhealthy.
That is so stupid.
I recently spoke at a school.
I'm sorry. I'm not saying Nicholas is stupid. I'm saying what Nicholas is saying here is just really stupid. Like, it doesn't, that's not,
to take down these hearts from the billboard that they had at their school. It was an elementary school. And they should not be having this at kids' schools because they don't need to be learning about sexuality. I'm like,
is it gender or is it sexuality? Like, these people should be educated on the fact that gender and sexuality are two separate things. Yes, sexuality should not be discussed in elementary schools. However, gender is, because as soon as you have a conception of yourself, which is what, age 1 to 2, you have a conception of your own gender.
Really putting stuff about my the sexuality I experienced at a grade school that they don't even need to be thinking about sexuality. It just doesn't make sense.
I would agree. They don't need to be thinking about sexuality, but they do need to be thinking about gender. And I don't think Nicholas understands the difference, which is shocking to me.
Exactly. I think you have some interesting insight into maybe
I don't.
what's going on with a lot of these people. I mean, I'm sure from the outset it's based, in some form of compassion.
Sorry, what's the pornography? Like, what are they actually thinking is pornographic that's being shown in schools? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Like, where's the proof? I want to see what they think is being shown in schools as pornographic. Like, I've never seen any proof or show me the marketing materials of what's being shown that you think is pornographic. I don't get it. I would be, I don't know. I'm
individuals, but to a fault.
Yeah, those feelings are being misconstrued to serve like such an unhealthy gender ideology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Javier.
Actually, when I first joined Gays Against Groomers, I can't remember who exactly, which member, but someone shared someone shared a link to a website where you can go by state and school district to check what's available within the schools. And because I have younger siblings than me who are in 2 different school districts, I went through that website, and my high school age siblings had, I believe it was genderqueer. And so that was like my first, once I found that out, that was like my first time speaking as a GAG member at a school board meeting, because I finally understood that so many people just...
Gays Against Groomers referred to as GAG. I'm a GAG member. That's awful.
So much sexualized content to be available to kids. It's appalling.
Gender and sex are different. Gender identity and sexuality are different. How do these people not understand that? It's uneducated. It's not, oh, look at Robert giving us the Illuminati sign there.
Disgusting. I could call it every word to describe how disgusted I am, but it just won't ever actually show. I can never alliterate how truly I feel. Like, if I could share how I feel, I totally would. And it's just, I think it is hypocritical that they're using this word that's just so overused, and it's just now has taken such a different meaning than when it did when we got the right to same-sex marriages to be federalized. That inclusivity, it's lost its true meaning. And it truly is hypocritical that some people who want, for whatever deprived reason, want kids that hold sexual content, that they want to see these kids.
I don't know how many times I can say it. Gender and sexuality are different.
Sexualized pictures and to learn about sexual acts at such young.
And also, kids don't also have an understanding of sex or sexuality unless they are taught it as well. So the way that the adult brain associates gender and sexuality together is the same thing. If kids haven't learned about sexuality, they don't have the ability to conflate those two ideas because they don't even have an understanding of one of them, right?
It's appalling, and it truly is hypocritical. And I'm glad that was my first big take when I joined GAG, was to speak out against that at my siblings' school board meeting.
Yes. It's crazy how people are equating what's essentially gay or queer trans ideology to being a child in order for them to grow up right. Or
do you not see the difference? I'm sorry, I'm beating a dead horse here on that broken record, but all of these adults here don't understand that. That's mind blowing.
Okay, maybe the kid is going to find themselves to be gay or whatever. Now they need to be exposed to this. Just really undermines the dignity of a person by putting such a low bar of content in front of them as though they require it. Okay, so Emma, what strikes you as ironic regarding school board members voting in favor of the sexualizing children and propagandizing them?
Well, I think the biggest thing right now is kids don't know how to write cursive, but they know what gender they are. And I think that's a big problem.
Are you fudging kidding me right now that cursive is what you think is more? I am gonna, Emma, oh God, girl, I lost so much respect for you just now. Who the HE double hockey sticks needs to know how to write in cursive? It does not matter.
And yet at the same time, what does that have to do with reading, writing, math, things like that? I see so many other things that could be taught, like how to do your taxes, how to...
we agree on that one. I think, yeah, I missed out. I want to know how to do my taxes, but it doesn't mean that it needs to come at the expense of anything else.
Balance a checkbook. Little things like this that mean more to us than this. However, I truly believe that there's something more sinister going on than what I will go ahead and say on here, because I don't know. It's hearsay at this point. But I can tell you one thing. There rarely is a day where I wake up and go to the news and not another teacher is being arrested for lewd and lascivious acts on a child pornography.
No, I'm sorry. That's not the case. That's not it. Like, show me, where are they? That is so not the case. That is harmful and perpetuates a terrible narrative against teachers. That's disgusting. You're so gross for that, Emma. Oh, I hate that.
Thing like that. So it's like they're
You want to talk about lewd acts against a child? How about we get into the churches? It's not the teachers. And
then they're going to jail for child porn. I think what they're trying
it doesn't happen every day. I'm so mad.
to do is groom and potentially lure the kids to them to do these things. They do. Some of them I truly believe that they are masking it so that way they want to be inclusive. They want to give that person the love and whatever caring that they have. But that's not their job. Their job is to teach. And so I don't know where this is going to end up leading. But I know when the ones that seem to fight back the hardest are the ones that I'm starting to really put up red flags that something might be a little bit deeper into this particular situation.
No, that's gross, because then by that, then she would be looking at me thinking that I have insidious motivations with children in classrooms, which is really gross to just assume that all people that are in the fight for human rights have insidious motivations behind that. That's not true. You are a person with insidious intentions, and that doesn't inform everything else about you as a human being. There are conservative people who are bad. There are liberal people who are bad. There are people who are neither that are bad. It's just you can't group in an amount of people into any one specific identifier and say they're all like this. It's an overgeneralization.
But I think it has zero place inside of our school.
So in 1957, Sputnik, the Russian satellite, launched, and it did, because before that, in America and in Western civilization, there was the kind of education called child-centered progressivism, where education focused on relationships, and it was really all about building community and building relationships with everybody around, parents, teachers, students, community members, stakeholders of every kind, because the importance was seen on human connection, just period, and how that related to people gaining knowledge. And there's a lot of studies that show that people are happiest and they're the smartest when you are built for connection. Then in 1957, when Sputnik launched the Russian satellite, everybody was scared. We needed to be scientists and all of this and that. So then it moved to what is now called scientific efficiency. So now there's no relationships. We don't care about anybody here. It's the drill and kill. It's the park and bark. You need to regurgitate facts. It's reading, writing, math, science. That's it. And then what's interesting is that the testing scores of everybody everywhere is consistently going down, because you can't actually, if you're not focusing on the community, if you're not focusing on the emotional needs of each student before you are attempting to teach them any subject, they're not going to be able to be listening to you, because they won't have the working memory to be able to do so if they have all of these other problems that aren't being dealt with either at home or at school. So fundamentally, child-centered progressivism is more meaningful and relates to higher outcomes from students. So now we are still stuck in the scientific efficiency model with our government, but we need this child-centered progressivism to be brought into school. So there are teachers like me, and pretty much every other teacher out there, because most teachers are educated and most educated people are liberals. Sorry, I'm just going to say it because it's logical. It's scientific. It's not that anyway. It doesn't, whatever. I'm getting heated now. And I think because this one is close to home, there are predators out there, but that doesn't mean that all predators are teachers and all teachers are predators. It's not, no.
It's another thing when you're pushing, hey, I'm gender fluid, or hey, I'm trans, or hey, I'm this. What does it matter? You can't.
Okay, so I'm non-binary, and the students that I've had know that because I don't go by Mr., I go by MX. It's quite simple, and it's not that hard. What does it matter? Because it's the way that people refer to me. It's like my name. That's what matters. I want to feel like these people respect me, and I want to use what I want people to refer me as. It's really not that deep. Nobody became non-binary in my classes because of that.
Support somebody without needing to push an ideology behind it. And I think that's what needs to be seen coming forward.
Excellent. Exactly. Okay, so we made it.
Could I say something?
Oh,
sorry, could I say piggyback off of what Emma said? I know for a fact here in California, a school district in San Diego, their math proficiency is below 20%. And
that's because of scientific efficiency, not because of child-centered progressivism. 100%.
Reading is anywhere between 32 and 37%. And
there's so many other things that contribute to that as well. I think this is after COVID is when this was filmed. Like the testing scores after COVID plummeted everywhere in every subject across the world. It's just the reality of the situation. It's not because of gender ideology.
What's funny, there's an organization they work with to teach kids about transgenderism, being transgender, agender, and all these other terminologies that are just getting made up on the fly. And
they're not being made up on the fly. What?
Why is it teaching this type of ideology more important than teaching our elementary school kids to know that 2 + 2 = 4. You know,
Again, it's child-centered progressivism versus scientific efficiency. I implore you to look that up. They're fascinating things to look at.
Writing and reading. Why is it so important for them to know that, but not to grow up to know how to read? There are so many schools in the country that are 2, 3, maybe even 4 reading levels behind on where they're supposed to be at. But yet teaching them this ideology is more important.
Again, it shows a big lack of maturity. I have a problem and there's something I don't like. And of course, the thing I don't like is because of this problem that I have. It's just, they're not connected. They're not connected at all. And it just shows that these people do not have experience in education. They do not have experience in schools or with children. It's just not the reality of the situation. And the fact that they're purporting these as facts when they in fact are not is, it's weird. What?
Yes, absolutely agree with that.
Who cares?
All right. So believe it or not, we're basically at the end of our 2-hour block here.
Thank God.
So with the last several minutes, what I want to do is have all of you share your message with the world. So I'm going to give you each a couple minutes. And what is your message to the world? And share your social media, your website, or whatever you're involved in.
All right, we're about done here. I can't wait for them to line it up, and I'm going to knock each one of them out of the park one at a time. Let's go, Nicholas.
I'd like people to come and join you on. This is your time to do that. Nicholas, please.
Yes. I want to share the message to people that have never heard this. Feeling gender dysphoria is totally possible. I feel like that's not
Yes, it is, but not in the way that he's about to say.
enough. And if I can do it, so can you.
That's not. No, that would be like a pro wrestler standing here and being like, if I can do it, so can you. No, there are limitations. Your experience is not that of everyone.
Someone special. I have dealt with internalized homophobia. I've dealt with suicide ideation. I've dealt with so much dark stuff.
And you can't falsely attribute that to your being trans when you didn't feel like you were supposed to be. It's not the same thing. It's a false equivalency. I'm going to need a poster here of logical fallacies because these people are in love with them.
I'm at a place where I'm like, I love myself to the point where I can look at the mirror and just be like, you look good today.
And that's good. I'm so happy for you, Nicholas. I'm so happy for you. Honestly, truly. I wish you a long life of not influencing others.
Just not just with that, but when I feel anxiety, I can give love to myself. And whenever gender dysphoria shows up, I love myself to the point where gender dysphoria doesn't exist in my body. So if I can do
But he just said that when gender dysphoria shows up. Oh, but wait, it doesn't. Like, which one is it? Make it make sense.
so can you. I truly believe that, and I have written a graphic novel called Detransition, sharing that message through my story so that you can really experience what it's like to have gender dysphoria and work through what that could look like with self-love. And if there are parents listening, I've also written children's book series to teach that feelings are fast, they don't last, so that we can inoculate the wokeism that exists today.
Whoa. I didn't know there was literature. We're going to have a look at those after. That's really interesting. Like, good for you showing up for your art and sharing your story. Your story is valid and deserves to be shared, but it doesn't deserve to be placed upon all other trans experiences because that's not appropriate.
Amazing. So, and you can find those books on Amazon?
So if you follow me on Nicholas Blooms on Instagram, there's a link tree in my bio, and it's also on Amazon under, you can look up Trans and Detrans, A Soul Solution on Amazon. You can also look up I Want Pickles 2 on Amazon, and you can buy those books there.
I already know what I Want Pickles 2. I already know what's going on there in that book just by the title. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. All right, Javier.
What I want to share is don't just take the word at face value if a child tells you they're a different gender. I do believe that you should investigate on where they heard that term from, because for all you know, whoever's telling that is it has some nefarious purpose behind it. That's all I can say.
Not always. Not always. Does it have the potential to be nefarious? Absolutely. But is it always like that? No, it's not.
I did do a interview with a woman from Wisconsin. Her name is Stephanie. I can't pronounce her last name, but I do plan on putting the link in my Instagram bio. Javi J R Rene RENE. That's also my username on X. I think a lot of people should watch the interview I had with Stephanie, because I do talk about like in detail what happened to me during the whole medical process of hormone replacement therapy. But just know that no one is born in the wrong body, and
Transphobic, bigot, That's what they want me to say about them, right? Because that's what they think I am. But some people are born in the wrong body. Yeah, I think that's really harmful to say that. And I think that's inherently transphobic. That's not me being funny. Some people are born in the wrong body. I believe that. I fully, well, maybe not necessarily. Like, I did see this take the other day on Instagram from a trans woman online, is that she said she wasn't born in the wrong body and she related it to God. I am not somebody who particularly believes in God through the lens of like Christianity or Catholicism or whatever, but they framed it as God meant for me to be trans because God wanted me to transition. So I think if you're looking at it from that way, like some people, you're not born in the wrong body, but you are meant to transition. I could see that being something that I could get on board with, but I don't think that's what Javier means here.
All of us here at GAG love you as who you were supposed to be, and we truly
I'm sorry, but GAG as the acronym for Gays Against Groomers is disgusting. Stop saying that.
Those of you who have gone through such a horrible experience of being indoctrinated into this ideology.
So everybody who's trans has been indoctrinated. That's his message. Cool.
Thank you, Javier.
Sick, bro.
Emma.
Well, my story is basically be you, and you don't need a label to be you. And when we
But kind of in Western society, you kind of do. Have you looked around at how obsessed everyone is with labels?
labels to be us, we then tend to, lie to ourselves.
You're all labeling yourself as detransitioners, are you not? What about that label?
Sometimes because we want to fit into something. It's okay not to fit in. It's okay to be a little bit socially awkward. I'm probably one of the most socially awkward people you'll meet. And when you go out with me, you'll understand that very quickly. And but I do love myself, and I love who I am. I don't necessarily love who I look like, but I can guarantee you that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And a lot of times we think that it is because people are glorifying it so well. And we think that when we transition, that we will have less problems or everything's going to be fixed. It's a utopia, and it's not true. The problems are still there. They just change and manifest itself a little bit differently.
Okay, not all your problems go away if you transition. I can get on board with that, sure.
We're never going to be able to get through life without some type of resistance and some type of pleasure at the same time. That's where it is.
That sentence confuses me.
And we need to just learn to balance ourselves, balance our thoughts, balance our health, balance our food, and everything that we do. Balance is so important. And I see that a lot of times the people that are transitioning are out of balance. I always say, look at a triangle. You have your social, business, and personal life. And if one is a
social, business, and personal. I don't think that makes sense. Isn't your social and what
more consumed than the other, it bends this way. And so, it's sitting on a top. And when that happens, the two that are falling are going to fall apart. Same thing here. So therefore,
respectfully, what the fuck are you saying?
You don't need to transition to be trans. You don't also have to follow norms. Just be you. And that's something I didn't do, and it's something I was too afraid to stand up for. And now that I can, I'm okay with that. And I would love to see you guys on any of my social media. It's all Emma Lynn Dowd, and emmalynndowd.com is my website, so you can follow what I got going on there too.
Thank you, Emma. Now, did you say Emma L. Dowd?
It's Emma Lynn, LYNNDOWD.
All right, thank you. Gotta make sure we have that right. All right, I'm going to ask one final question. You thought that was the last one. Well, we got time for one more.
What about Kevin?
Do my thing, or
Oh, Kevin, I'm so sorry, Kevin.
all good?
I'm going to give you extra time.
Why does he hate Kevin so much?
Okay, please go on. Tell us, what is your message to the world, and where can we find you?
Can't wait for this whisper party.
I was in high school. I went to my grandfather's celebration of life, and I learned that he was a lot more extraordinary than what I was already perceiving as. He had a lot of different professions in his life. He was a flautist, a painter, and he went to medical school, became a doctor, and then realized how awful the medical system is, and then became a homeopathic remedy doctor, and saved lives and cured people naturally, and not getting people on Western medicine. And that completely just, that's been my compass since that point in time. And by extension, my mission is to help people being able to feel empowered to the point where they can heal themselves and understand what they need to heal themselves, mentally, physically, or spiritually. And there's endless ways of being able to explore that and be able to find that for yourself. And which is a big reason why I started the support group I did, where I have both detransitioners and parents coming together. It's more of a place to expand on thoughts, feelings, and actions, and so we can understand that there's no perfect thing. We're just doing our best to be a little bit better day by day, and we're just trying things in a different way that hopefully leads us to a more beautiful and joyful and loving life.
If he's attempting to be so much joyful and loving, he doesn't look like it. These people don't look happy. Like I might be sitting in front of you like frustrated and like maybe at some point sounding angry, but do you get the sense that I'm like a sad person who like has been victimized by the world and this and that? Like, ugh, I don't think so. Like ultimately when I close this and the screen recording is done and I'm waiting for like my tech to export the video to YouTube, like I'm out here clicking my heels. Like I'm a happy person. And I don't get the sense from these people. Like just another insufferable answer by Kevin.
Instagram is Mr.Kevin_Jones. If you're interested in, I do one-on-one coaching for men. And then I also have an interest form for.
Leave it in the comments if I should sign up for one-on-one coaching for men with Mr. Kevin_Jones.
And then also for the support group. Yeah, that's all I got.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So I will attempt to put up all your guys' contact information as you shared it into the description of the bio of the show. So that way if people driving, they could go back and they can click. I'm going to ask one last question, and if we could just keep it to maybe a minute long, I'll give you the sign. And the question is this. What is it going to take to end false converts that are entering into the transgender arena? What is it going to take to prevent so many false converts? Nicholas.
I feel like I'm on the spot. Let me think about that.
What's it going to take to stop all the people converting to religion?
It's hard. Yeah, maybe that'd be better.
Okay, so let's go to Javier and we'll come back.
No, best thing I can say is just like the required amount of therapy. That's honestly the best thing I can say right now. It's just have that a certain set of time and therapy be required to keep these false converts out, because at the end of the day, these are the type of...
Yeah, but he already said that nobody should be trans. He said that. He said nobody's born in the wrong body. So is it false converts or is it not? Make it make sense, Javier.
Pushing dangerous ideology, while the people who do have a genuine medical condition of gender dysphoria are being ostracized for not...
I thought gender dysphoria doesn't exist. Wasn't that him that said that? Maybe it was somebody else.
It's just... I think that's just the best way. It's just having a required set of therapy time.
Thank you for that, Javier. All right, let's move over to Emma, followed by Kevin.
Obviously, Javier's right. Mental therapy is something very important, but also truth. And for all of us, we cannot stop telling our truth. And the more that we get out there and brave the criticism that we're going to get, we're going to make an impact. And so be strong, be true to yourself, be true to who you are and the people around you, and find a way to love yourself. And also therapy. Those are the best things I can tell you.
Okay.
Excellent.
Cool.
Kevin.
What's a false convert?
Well, what I mean by that is somebody who goes in and down the path of transgenderism.
You're offering one-on-one coaching and you can't understand what that means?
To realize that that wasn't their truth.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely didn't understand that at first. I think the practice of being present and focusing on what you can control, not what you cannot control. Those are two really prominent things that help you move through difficult change in a much more graceful manner instead of it being incredibly rocky. And, meditation, float tanks.
Yeah, if you're trans, just go float in a tank and you'll be fine. What?
I mean, it's finding support groups. Is this supposed to be a message to those people, or am I getting this right?
Yeah, no, this sounds
okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, then yeah, that.
Awesome. All right, Nicholas.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of Emma, because what she's speaking is really great about continuing to share truth. I know James Lindsay says to love the truth to the point where someone can try to negotiate the truth out of you, to the point where if you love the truth so much, you're sharing the truth so much, no one can take that out of you, because you're just like, I love the truth. The truth is who I am. The truth is what I want to be and share. I think, and it's working. I feel like all of us here today sharing our story is so courageous. And the more people listen to us, the more people are sharing this. So I feel like that's all we can do is we can't convert people that want to convert themselves to think that they're trans. Like, it's not going to happen. It's their journey. They'll figure themselves out. But all we can do is show up as ourselves, share our voice, share our story so that
But if you're not trying to influence people, then what are you doing on this call?
the story, so our stories can get to them.
Absolutely. And y'all have done such a super job. I feel like I've gotten to know you all so much better and so well, just kind of knowing about that hidden part of your lives. And so thank you for sharing that so openly with us. And that's the end of the show. So if y'all want to just say goodbye, everybody's waving.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Have a blessed day. I will talk to y'all soon.
Have a blessed day.
Thanks.
So thank you, babies, for getting to the end of this video. Honestly, I don't have much to say here. I think there's a lot of transphobia going on. I think they're bigots. No, not necessarily. I don't want to be hateful. Like, again, I've said this in the first episode for sure. I don't hold anything against these people. I don't think they're lying. I don't think they are trying to hurt people. I think they are truly doing what they think is best. But unfortunately, it is perpetuating some transphobic ideologies here. They are using their experiences of detransitioning to try and purport the idea that nobody's born in the wrong body and that nobody should be transitioning ever. And I don't think that's the case, but hey, that's my opinion. So if you're here at the end, thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. I really appreciate you. Tell me what you think in the comments, honestly. Should I get the one-on-one coaching with Kevin Jones? I think it might be interesting. So again, thank you so much for joining. I will see you in the next episode. And until next time, goodbye.